Woo! Come on! Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of AFC Northerners. I'll get the introduction started. I'm Mark Herman, aka LA Bengal fan, on Twitter, repping the Bengals.
Dave Green, Browns guy.
Jan Davis-Utah, Ravens Nation.
Chris Atkins, 6-time Super Bowl champs.
Oh, shut up.
Oh,
wow.
You should have started right off the bat. Come on,
Such an asshole. You know what? We're going to just start putting this on the History Channel. That way you feel, like you belong. All right, so...
JD, why don't you introduce our guest?
Yeah, so we have a brand new segment, brand new guest. Everybody meet Alex. She's going to be part of our brand new... we're going to have a segment on occasionally called Officiating with Alex. I've met Alex. I adored talking to her about officiating stuff, and she had such a deep knowledge. And what did you say? You were the only girl in your elementary school with deep opinions on Dan Marino?
Yeah, I hated him.
So, and also, gentlemen, just so everybody's aware, we have a Dolphins fan in our midst.
Yeah,
so
wow.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay. She'll still
Ryan
sign off
Tannehill
properly at the end.
Yeah.
So
Ryan Tannehill.
You and Dave will have a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Would you say like Ryan Tannehill was like the Honda of quarterbacks?
Yeah, no, he's the Honda Civic.
He's the line.
Look, dependable, reliable, surprisingly zippy. Not exactly the kind of car you want to show up on a date.
Well put.
I love her. Awesome. I love doing that. It's so great.
Let's get started with news. Bengals, not much happening. We did extend Marvin Lewis, which is probably the precursor to a longer extension. I know that they wanted to get that off the table so it wasn't in discussion all year.
You don't think that he's like his job is in jeopardy?
No, I don't.
Jeopardy, he's on the hot seat. The guy hasn't won a playoff game since he took over.
Exactly.
And they just watched their replacement for him move right on up to Cleveland.
5 straight playoff appearances. There's only one other team.
Zero
wins.
Zero wins.
The New England Patriots. They're relevant. He's staying. Okay.
Lovie Smith was in a similar situation where he won, he just didn't win the games he had to win.
You know what?
Yeah.
And where had Chicago been since they sent Lovie Smith off?
I'm not saying it was a great
No,
move.
I'm telling you.
I'm not saying it was a great move, but it
there's
was
something
the
to be
move.
said about being relevant. And like I said, since Marvin Lewis has come to the Bengals have been relevant. It's
Okay.
that simple.
All right.
So, also we picked up the 5th-year option on Tyler Eifert. And we did that a year earlier. So, I mean, we didn't have to pick it up for another year. So, and then unfortunately, Reggie Nelson did sign with the Oakland Raiders.
Yes, he did.
And more guaranteed money. Wish Reggie the best. And you're going to see a lot more Sean Williams and Duron Smith this year. So it'll be a chance to film him. We
How do
got
you
his
feel about
replacements.
that? How do you?
I wanted him back, but I understand that he had a limited role. He knew Sean Williams as his replacement, and Sean Williams was already cutting into his time last year. I think he gets to step right into the Woodson role of leadership, and they like the position he had more. And he also feels like he's going to a program that's winning. I mean, the Raiders are, everybody's talking, they are the fashionable pick
They are
to take over the West.
They really are. I mean, that AC/DC combination is crazy.
No, it just goes to show you, we did Dalton Green, but you can see Carr and Cooper.
Yeah.
How much that changes your team and makes you relevant. So,
it truly does.
So that's it on the Bengal front. What do we got for the Browns?
All right, we're going to just mention Gordon happened. We're going to talk about that a little bit later on in the segment.
I love how we're going to deal with this later.
Don't pay any attention.
Let's start off with we released 6 scouts this past week. That was just because the contracts were expiring and we're trying to mainline everybody into the same.
Really?
Why wouldn't you keep them on for 3 more weeks?
I know.
They're all landed jobs on other teams, so now they kind of have an insight as to what's going on behind the scenes.
I think we're pretty confident that they didn't have that active of a role in scouting the guys that we're looking at in that first and that second round. And I think that they were expendable, especially with the contracts expiring. Other Browns news, we released Whitner. That was a little late for that
right
guy.
over that last
Long late. That's a bad move.
And we did what we had to do. The time was there to make that move. We didn't know we were going to do it 2 weeks ago. We knew we were going to do it now. That's what it is. IFO was released, claimed almost immediately by Miami off the waivers. In addition to all that shit, we went ahead and we re-signed Austin Pasteur, Scott Solomon, Darius Jennings, Caleb Johnson, and Travis Coons. And to wrap up some Browns news, OTAs are May 17th to the 19th, the 24th to the 26th, May 31, June 1, June 2, voluntary minicamp, April 19th to the 22nd, and mandatory minicamp, June 7th through the 9th.
You are so thorough.
Wow, get your
I
tickets.
know, right? Pay all that
I'm
money
saying
to
more.
watch nothing
Fucking
happen.
America's team. I don't know how many
America's
times I gotta keep discussing this and saying it.
You know,
Watch what happens as we get further on down the line. They don't have a lot to talk about. Who
Yeah,
was
because we
talked
don't
about in
fuck
the
up
media?
shit.
Yeah, because they don't have guys failing drug tests.
He
We didn't have
didn't-
to release a quarterback because he
All right,
tried
all right. Let's not go LOL Browns
All
too
right,
hard.
let's go. All right.
All right.
America's team.
Save some for the
It's
season.
America's
Save
team.
some
for the
Let me
season.
know how you guys are gonna do because your defense is older than fucking dirt.
This guy.
And Pittsburgh, well, fuck Pittsburgh.
Yeah, that's all he's got. That's all he's got.
That's the most important sentence. It's the same joke. Why does Michigan go and Pittsburgh suck?
Okay, all right.
All right.
I guess Ravens.
Calm down there, big guy. Calm down.
The dog pound just like the dog's out. All right, so Ravens, there's not a lot really happened, as you can tell. Dennis Pitta got a restructured contract. It looks like the Ravens saved between $3 or $4 million with the restructure, which is great for us. It allows us to have even more, like a little bit of more space with, the draft coming up, as well as any other free agency picks we wind up doing. We did waive Chase Ford, who was picked up by the Browns. They claimed him off of waivers. Harold Spears went as well. I think maybe you guys picked him up as well over waivers. For some reason, I want to say that. I may be wrong. But,
Sloppy seconds.
Yeah, sloppy seconds, exactly.
T-Rich.
Man, yeah, so there's that. Other than that, not a lot going on in the land of the Ravens. Other than, there is one thing that happened, we'll touch about this a little bit later, but there was sort of an update about Perryman's knee. But we've got a question later that will take care of that. So,
More to come.
boom. What about you, Playboy?
The calm before the storm in Pittsburgh. I mean, same thing, not a whole lot going on. I think at this point we're pretty happy with what we have pre-draft. I think really nothing's going to happen in Pittsburgh until then. A couple odds and ends we have going on. One thing I talked about last show is that we still haven't signed our backup quarterbacks. That's Mike Vick and Bruce Gradkowski. They're still out there as free agents. That gives us Bone Jones behind Ben. I think that something's going to have to happen for someone to challenge Bone Jones. I'm not sure if we're going to get a late round quarterback. Dak Prescott might be a good pick, late rounds there.
Yeah.
In other Steeler news, since I've been in LA here, there's a lot of talk about USC and UCLA here in the city whenever the two play each other. Huge deal in LA, but I've never really cared, never had a dog in a fight until today. Until now. USC is going to start a new winning tradition. They picked up Lynn Swann as their athletic director.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Right.
Replaces
So he's
Pat
going back to
Hayden.
his alma mater, I believe, to try to lead them back to prominence. So good for him. Good for USC. He's a winner. I hope he does really well there.
Nice.
The last thing is the preseason schedules come out, and the Steelers really need to get that defense together because for the 14th consecutive year, we're going to end our preseason with the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, we start our preseason off with the Carolina Panthers.
We don't
But that
even
last
cover.
preseason game, I mean, that's basically a dress rehearsal.
Yes.
We're going to see what they really have to offer with a freshly rested Benjamin. Those defensive backs are going to get a test there against Cam. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it'll be good on our side to see Steve Smith go up against that former team as well. I mean, granted,
does well against
he'll only play one quarter because we got him in the very
Yeah, I was
first
going to
game.
say the third week is really the dress
Yeah,
rehearsal.
third
The
week
fourth
is
week
right.
is for the first quarter, but
Yeah.
you usually get your starters out by then. So
Exactly. All right, so we are going to move on to our brand new segment.
Officiating
with Alex. So we wrangled up some questions and whatnot, trying to figure out, like, now that we've gone through the owners' meeting, and we still have another one coming up soon.
Yeah, in May.
In May, exactly. So what are the pressing questions out of that meeting that we want to know, like, how do we understand what happens in the officiating world? So our first question up was about the chop block. Was this going to lower scoring, like bring lower scoring games? And what is your opinion on the chop block as it is?
Okay, so here's where the chop block whole thing gets a little weird. So really, it's one type of chop block that's really the banned chop block.
Okay.
So basically what it is like you can't double team a defensive lineman anymore. And then like if the defensive lineman's engaged with an offensive lineman, the offensive lineman next to him can't chop block him while someone else is engaged. You can't do a high-low.
Ah, okay. All right.
Now,
But
do you
you
think
can-
this leads to more injuries to quarterbacks? Because guys like Von Miller, sometimes you couldn't contain him with two guys blocking.
So, honestly, what it comes down to, or at least the way I'm looking at it, because this is like one of those rules where if it's a high-low, it's subject to referee interpretations.
Yeah.
And the referees
Yeah.
may
Mess
or
up.
may not interpret it.
Yet another reason why the Ravens want Harbaugh's plan for replay
Yes.
completely
Exactly. But the other thing too is that if you're on one-on-one and going in the direction of traffic,
Mm-hmm.
you can still chop block. That's still totally okay. So at the end of the day, it's like you're banning one thing and or putting it subject to the interpretation of the referees to police what's going on. So, you're engaging with somebody up top. You have somebody else coming to help you. If they decide they want to double team by going up high, that's perfectly fine.
But they can't
It's
go
just going low.
Okay.
That's interesting. Okay. All
I
right.
like to see where they draw the line between a high and a low block. I mean, the obvious ones, of course, but I wonder just what is a little too high, a little too low.
Yeah.
And that's going to be the gray area. And when you have that gray area, you're going to have calls that are just going to look fishy,
Yeah.
depending on how it goes against your team.
Did they change
I don't know.
the
It's so
yardage
subjective. All I can think is the
Yeah, it's
refs
gonna
are
be
going to
super
figure out a way to
subjective.
screw this one up, and it won't be administered across the board. So.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So let's move on.
Surprise, surprise.
Surprise,
Yeah.
surprise. The refs are going to screw something up. No way!
So
Also, keep in mind, I mean, I've officiated Little League games, so it's a lot slower, stakes a lot lower than what's going on here in the NFL. But you're talking about one person watching 10 guys that are just twisting in circles for about 3 seconds. This is a very, very tough call to make on the interior parts of the line. If it's on the very end and it's a running back and a tight end, that's easy to see. If it's a center and a guard, that is a very hard call to
thing
make.
to make.
Yeah, and
exactly.
you're also looking at with a defensive lineman and 2 offensive linemen, you're looking at 900 pounds of dude.
Yep.
So it's really hard to get daylight. It's really hard to see what's going on, and it could just be a guy falling down. Is that a chop block or is it a dude tripping?
Yeah.
No, and so this is where I think it's going to lead to some interesting situations until they get a little bit.
A little bit
clarity.
better.
Hopefully, it doesn't change the outcome of a game. So
Yeah, that's the big
Yeah.
thing. Or maybe that changes the outcome of the game in a positive way. I mean, because now we've got less injuries or something of that
Well, I
nature.
just meant in terms of hopefully a bad call
Yeah.
doesn't change the outcome of a game because the refs just didn't get it right.
Got you. Okay, so our next question is moving the touchback to 25. Your intake, your opinion?
I mean, look, this is only a trial period for the season,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
And I understand sort of what they're trying to do because let's face it, kickoffs are where you see the most injuries.
Right.
Yeah. Guys going 150% at it and
Yeah, and it's also
smack. It's
exactly, and it's also your guys who aren't your starters. This is where they can get their coach's attention. So they tend to do stuff that's dumb as shit.
Right. Yeah.
So, but like at the end of the day, moving the touchback to 25, is it going to really lead to fewer injuries? I kind of doubt it.
I think it actually leads to more returns. I think you're going to see sky balls and pooch kicks. You're going to try to drop a ball at like the 10-yard line, force a return, because now you have 15 yards to stop them.
Yeah.
You're already going to give them the 25. Before you only had that 10-yard cushion.
Yeah.
I think this leads to actually more returns and not fewer returns.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that too. It's like I see that it actually is like I think it's gonna do something subtle that leads to something bigger. I mean, you're gonna see like bigger plays off of it. All right, so final question: what out of all of the teams that kind of come to the owners' meeting and rules are changed about, is there a team in particular that you feel like drives the most amount of changes? We had somebody ask whether or not they think that the Steelers are, the reason that there are so many changes in the league. Other people have named other teams. So, is there a particular team that you feel drives changes more at the NFL meetings?
I mean, honestly, it seems that so many of our big officiating, or all the big officiating questions tend to be a call goes the Patriots' way, playoffs, and then people are like, was that really a catch? And they make that face for like the rest of the off season, and then everyone else gets mad at Bob Kraft. And then
we're always mad at Bob.
Yeah.
Kraft. I mean,
and then
yeah, fuck that dude.
and then they end up going like, all right, well, we have to revise the rule to clarify this, because the one thing that the Patriots are really good at is looking at the rule book and being like, well, this is an area of ambiguity. Because if you look at, for instance, how the rules about what constitutes a chop block, I have a bunch of fancy degrees. I read contracts for a living. I have no fucking clue who the hell wrote this. So when it comes down to, it's like, in terms of innovation, you know, I think the Ravens actually made a couple of good points about, you know, replay.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you not agree with anything they said about the replay?
Oh no, the replay rule, like, I like what they're trying to do.
Okay,
I completely understand why the NFL, as a corporate overlord, doesn't want to, because they're selling a TV product and they don't want to delay a game.
Yeah.
Right. But it seems like you had Tom Brady, you had Carson Palmer blow out his knee in probably the dirtiest play against the Steelers. A couple years later we had Ben get hurt. We had other quarterbacks get hurt. It wasn't until, oh my gosh, Tom Brady got hurt. We need a rule about hitting a quarterback below the knees. I mean, it's like they lose Tom Brady and all of a sudden we get a new rule change.
Dude,
What's on is I don't even think it's a full team. I really think it comes down to players. I think Brady himself is a huge rule changer.
I think it comes down to Belichick. Like, I legitimately
I mean, he's kind of like the...
I think that Belichick is like, he just winds up breaking or skirting around a rule that creates a new rule not to be skirted around.
If
until
they
it figures
leave
out
a
a way.
loophole in it, the guy will find a
Oh,
way
yeah, absolutely.
to access it. And he's doing his job. Like, it's not any other team's fault that the guy does his job better than any other team.
No, I completely,
You
it's
know,
like,
and-
I got no hate on the guy in that regard. Like, he's a genius. As much as I hate to say it, he is. He taught John Harbaugh. John Harbaugh worked for him. I mean, a lot of coaches came out of Belichick. That sounded weird and disgusting.
He birthed that.
He birthed so many coaches. But yeah, it always feels like the Patriots are one of the reasons like we always have a rule change. So I completely get that.
One thing I do think is funny, though, is that Manning and Brady together kind of gave birth to players or teams providing their own game balls. Before that, the NFL would provide the balls, so everything was pretty consistent. There was no deflate gate back then.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Manning and Brady pushed for teams to be able to provide their own game balls. I think it's very interesting that he's now kind of the poster child of what can go wrong when you allow that.
Yeah, exactly. All right. It was like any other questions you got for Alex?
I think we'll move on to our next segment, which we introduced last episode,
Yeah, our second
which
one.
was called "What's Up with That?"
Yeah.
And
So
and today's "What's Up with That" is 2 words, and we'll make it simple. Josh Gordon.
Josh Gordon.
What's up with that?
all right. So what is up with that, Dave?
Let's see.
Now you're answering.
I dodged that shit earlier, and now we'll answer it. The fact of the matter is that he tested positive for a little bit of marijuana, well below the league minimum on it.
But it was
the
a diluted sample.
Yeah, the chances of suspension are there, like anything else. He has to show at least 3 months of sobriety. He's able to retest and reapply for reinstatement on August 1st.
Now,
So
my
it's-
question is, what's up with the commissioner giving him a retest? Because
It's standard to give 2 tests.
Yeah.
No, but the drug protocol says that a diluted sample is a fail, and a fail when you're already on a 1-year suspension is another 1-year suspension. So what's up with the 90 days?
His 1-year suspension was over. He just wasn't
it's-
reinstated at that jump.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
That's exactly
The
what
commissioner
happened.
dragged his feet from, February 1st when he was allowed to reapply. He was technically, that suspension was over at that juncture.
Yeah.
The commissioner dragged his feet because he wasn't too sure, because we saw the pictures of him hanging out with Manziel and all that other bullshit. as a commissioner trying to protect my product, my brand, yeah, I'm gonna withhold judgment on that. I want to see.
So what you're saying is they knew he was going to fail at least one more.
They're giving him one more, so they'll just get one. They're just waiting.
Yes,
for the sample
yes,
to
I
be in.
believe that is exactly what he's saying.
The suspension was over in January, and then this test that they supposedly got him on was done in March. Of course, he dragged his feet. It's kind of bullshit, honestly. You know, if you're gonna
but
test
you know
a
you're
guy,
being
test
tested.
him in January. There's no rule that says that he has to be tested once he's cleared from suspension.
And here's the thing, he wasn't just tested either.
It was March.
Yeah, it was March. So
Yeah.
it was like last
2
month.
months after said fact of the suspension
Yeah.
being over. That's bullshit. Like, if you're really going to do that and you're going to play that game, why don't you come on out here to San Francisco, test all those assholes? Because I know a bunch of people that have sold a bunch of damn dope to those motherfuckers. And any other NFL
Dude, I know this.
player-
No, seriously. I know the guy that's doing it.
Yeah, I've got a brownie on his
Done
way
that.
to Josh Gordon, so don't worry.
Hey, a brownie for a brownie.
We're one of the 26 states.
He should stand up and take a bow, man. That was just brilliant.
Let me just ask it then. Is he done? Is
Yeah.
he going to play this season or is he done? Is he another Justin Blackman?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it all depends on how bad he wants it. Now, whether or not we're talking about
What, the brownie or the Browns?
Cleveland, you know, Hugh Jackson's been taking a no-nonsense approach to it. Look at what we've done so far.
Then why not cut him? Why not just say we're done with this distraction?
Because look at it like this: if he retests August 1st and tests positive, we can ship that guy to any other team in the league. What was it, 2012, after he led the league in receiving yards, San Fran wanted to offer us a second and a third rounder for the guy.
And they should have taken it.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so there's value with the guy. There's a reason to hold on to him if he can test clean.
It's one of
Now,
those
he's not-
time machine questions.
Now, he's not retested August 1st. He can reapply August 1st. He will have multiple
He will
tests
have
between
multiple
now.
tests
Their
between
surprise
then and
tests,
first.
yeah.
Yeah.
So it's yeah. Once you enter the drug protocol, they can test you whenever they want. If
Yeah.
you don't want to be tested and you want to smoke weed in the off season, don't ever get into the drug protocol. They have no reason to test you.
Yeah, no, exactly. All right, so do we move to the next thing?
Yeah, let's. And you know what? Now we're going to move down to the mailbag. I know we have a mailbag question. Chris, you want to read it?
We do. We got our question from Jacob Dunham. This is specifically a Raven question. And what Jacob wants to know is, do you think Suggs, Joe, Perriman, we're going to add a name here, Matt Elam, and Steve Smith Sr. can recover from their season-ending injuries? What do you think?
All right, so let's take two of those names off the table right off the bat. I do think that Joe Flacco and I think that Steve Smith Sr. will be able to come back. I think Joe will be 100%. I think that Steve Smith Sr. I don't know that he'll be 100%, but this is his first real major injury. So I think that he will come back at probably 90 to 95%, knowing that man at the very least. As far as Suggs goes, this is second Achilles injury. It's really tough to come back from one, let alone two.
But it's,
You're that-
it's
it's
the
on
other
the-
leg.
it's on-
It's
yeah,
the
he's
other
on the
leg,
other
so
leg.
he's got a
But
chance.
But
he's also old.
he's also
Yeah.
old.
When you're
Exactly.
that big, I mean, that's a
Smith
lot of weight
also.
to carry around.
Exactly. He's also older. I don't know if he's going to come back perfect. But then again, like, you know, Ray Lewis tore his his pec,
yeah.
and he also tore, I think, it was pec in his bicep too, right?
Yeah.
And it was tore his pec in his bicep, and we went on to win a Super Bowl, and he had it wasn't his best year, but it certainly wasn't a bad year either. So there's that. I think that Suggs can come back, whether or not he's 100%. I mean, nobody knows but him on that one. I've talked to some docs about it, and it's like, throw them questions,
Just
stuff like that.
casually.
Yeah, you'd be surprised the amount of sports medicine guys that love to talk on Twitter. And like, you can throw questions out there, and they're like, "Oh yeah, let me tell you about this." Like, they love the
The
game.
market's
they love
not that big for talking about
it.
it.
Exactly, it really isn't, because most players don't want to talk about it. So anyway, talking to those guys, like it is totally a recovery you can come back from in the time that he came back from, because his injury was so early in the season last year. Whether or not he's going to be 100% is really up to what his conditioning was after in rehab. As far as Perryman, and that's a big question mark. That's a huge question mark.
Does anyone have as good of a chance to be 100% as Le'Veon Bell? I think Bell's gonna come back 100%.
Well, let's not talk about the Steelers. This is a Ravens question. Get it
Yeah.
back. All right, so
You like how he tried to
hasn't
segue
had a
that?
lot
It's
of
like,
camera
shit,
time.
come on.
Give him a break.
all right,
Jesus.
so going back to Perriman, it's a big question mark. He could come back and just blaze the field. We won't know. There's just no way to realistically know. I've torn my ACL and PCL. Whenever I did that, like it took me 2 years to recover. If this kid's coming back from a slight tear, like a sprain basically after a year, it can take that long, but at the same time, he might come back mid-season.
Wasn't the thought with Perriman that his bones, because he's so young, were still
Yeah, and
growing,
that's-
and that was
that
the
was-
hindrance. That's
that
what we were
was
talking
in
6-7
college.
months ago.
Exactly, that was a college thing, and it did affect something at some point in time, but they didn't think it was a major factor. Is basically the vibe I got off it. And finally, for the last person. Joe Flacco, I think he's going to be fine, by the way. I think that he's going to recover. I don't see any real big problems.
He'll go back to being the least charismatic.
Charismatic quarterback.
Well overpaid.
Give the guy a break.
Uh,
Everybody
Matt,
bagged on
he's
He's not a
Carson
big
when he
mobile
for no
quarterback to
personality.
begin with. So I mean,
But he
he's not-
can run. Have you seen some of the stuff?
He can run, but
right.
he's not one of those guys that's going to beat you with his leg.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so finally, Matt Elam. Matt Elam is kind of a heartbreaking thing. First round draft pick. He could actually be the biggest bust of the first round ever taken for the Ravens. However, he injured his bicep. He didn't injure his knees. He didn't injure any of the other part.
Not his
That
shoulder
can
either, yeah.
that tear can be healed. That can be worked on. It really depends. How much we see of him shows what he does in training camp. Whether or not he's 100%. I mean, it's not a horrible injury to come back from. It's still not really freaking pleasant. But I think that he could do something. It really depends on how depleted our backfield gets again, like it was last year. I mean, we were horrible last year in the defensive backs.
Horrible.
So in defensive ends. So that's my answer for that. Yeah. All right.
Well, we want to give out some shout outs to our YouTube participants. New ones this week were Peter C., Jacob Dunham, who gave us that question, Melody Kelly, new Bengal viewer. Thank you. I'm glad you found us too. The Hildebeest 100 and Red Storm.
Red Storm.
So other than that, we're available on all the social media platforms. We're available on Facebook, Reddit, Twitter, and mailbag questions. Email them to
AFCNortherners@gmail.com.
There you go. So, and then if you send in a video clip, we'll actually include it in the episode.
Exactly. We would love to have those video clips. We had a couple, but the quality was a little bad. But again, feel free
Remember, shoot in landscape.
Yeah, shoot in landscape, not portrait. Come on, guys.
There you go.
Again, just send them to afcnortherners@gmail.com.
So we are actually back in 2 weeks. We are going to be on right before the
The
first
day
round of
before
the draft.
the regular season comes out later today. So we're really excited to be able to finally talk about our regular season schedules too.
So we'll be back in 2 weeks, right before the draft, and we'll sign off as we always do with
Fuck the Patriots!
I'm just gonna drink.
See you in 2 weeks.
See you in 2
Bye-bye.
weeks, guys. Bye.